I still remember the smell of white lilies and rain on that cold afternoon. The church was full of people whispering condolences, but all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in my chest. My name is Elena, and just 3 weeks earlier, I had been happily married to the love of my life, David. We had built our dream home together, the house we poured our savings, our sweat, and our love into for 8 beautiful years. David was gone. A sudden heart attack took him from me at only 42. I stood there at his funeral, wearing the black dress he always said made me look like a queen, feeling completely shattered. His hand was no longer in mine. The future we planned, gone. After the service, everyone came back to our house. I thought it would be a day of shared grief and support. But as the last guests left, David's father, Richard, asked me to sit down at the dining table. His face was serious, almost cold. My mother-in-law sat beside him, eyes avoiding mine. "Elena," Richard began, his voice steady, "we appreciate everything you did for David. But now that he's gone, things need to return to how they should be. This property, it reverts back to the blood family. It's only right." I stared at him, not fully understanding. "What do you mean? This is our home. David and I bought it together." He slid a paper across the table, some old family document. David was the last male heir. The house was always meant to stay in the family line. "We're giving you 2 weeks to make arrangements." My world, already broken, cracked even deeper. These people who had smiled at our wedding, who had celebrated holidays in this very house, were now asking me to leave the only place where I still felt David's presence. I cried myself to sleep that night, clutching his favorite sweater, wondering how grief could turn into such cruelty so quickly. But what I didn't know then was that this was only the beginning of their betrayal, and the start of a truth that would change everything. The next few days felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. David's siblings started showing up, taking inventory of furniture, even tagging items they wanted. They treated me like I was a temporary guest in my own home. One afternoon, his sister Sarah pulled me aside. "Look, Elena, you're still young. You can start over. But this house has been in our family for generations. Dad's right. It's time." I tried to show them the joint ownership papers and the will David had made 2 years ago, leaving everything to me. They dismissed it. "That won't hold up," Richard said confidently. "We have lawyers. Blood is thicker than paper." I felt so alone. Friends told me to fight, but the grief was suffocating. I would sit in our bedroom for hours, replaying memories, David cooking Sunday breakfast, dancing with me in the kitchen, promising me we'd grow old together in this house. Now those walls felt like they were closing in. The emotional pain was unbearable. Some nights I could barely breathe. I kept wondering, did David know his family would do this? Was our entire life together just something they could erase? Then came the worst part. 10 days after the funeral, Richard gave me formal notice. They were filing to evict me. They even spread whispers in our social circle that I had taken advantage of David and never truly belonged. I was devastated. Broken. I spent hours on the phone with lawyers, but the process felt slow and expensive. Every time I walked through the house, I felt David's absence like a fresh wound. How could the people who were supposed to support me in my darkest time become the source of even more pain? But slowly, something inside me began to shift. The tears dried up and were replaced by a quiet, burning resolve. I stopped crying and started digging. I went through every drawer, every email, every document David had left behind. That's when I discovered something that changed everything. David had known his family's greedy nature. 2 years ago, after a big argument with his father about money, he had secretly created a revocable living trust. The house, the investments, even some family heirlooms, everything was properly protected and left solely to me. He had also recorded several conversations with his father where Richard openly admitted the family's intentions if anything ever happened to him. I sat on the floor that night, holding those papers with trembling hands, tears of a different kind falling. David had protected me even after he was gone. Now it was my turn to protect what we had built. I didn't rush. I waited until the day before they planned to serve the final eviction notice. Richard had called a family meeting at the house, without me, to discuss dividing the assets. I walked in quietly while they were all gathered in the living room. The look on their faces when they saw me was priceless. "I asked the lawyer to join us today," I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. For the first time since David's death, I felt strong. Richard smirked. "This isn't necessary, Elena." But when the lawyer explained the living trust, the recorded conversations, and the ironclad will, their expressions changed from confidence to shock, then to fear. I played one of the recordings. Richard's own voice filled the room. "If anything happens to David, we'll make sure the property stays with the real family." The silence was deafening. Sarah started crying. Richard's face turned pale. For the first time, they saw me, not as the grieving widow they could push around, but as the woman who had just exposed their true intentions. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I simply said, "This house was never just bricks and walls. It was our love, our dreams, and David's final promise to me. You tried to take that away when I was at my lowest. But David made sure you couldn't." They left that day without argument. No more threats. No more visits. The family that had betrayed me so coldly was now the one shattered. In the weeks that followed, I made the house my own again. I planted the garden David and I had planned. I kept his favorite chair by the window. And slowly, I began to heal. Looking back, I realized this painful chapter taught me something powerful. Real love protects you even beyond this life. And when people show you who they really are in your darkest moments, believe them. Today I stand in this house, no longer broken, but stronger. David's love still lives here. And I finally have peace. If you're going through betrayal after loss, remember this: your pain is valid, but your strength is greater. Protect your peace. Trust the love that was real. And never let anyone convince you that you don't belong in the life you helped build. Thank you for watching my story. If it touched you, please like, comment, and share. Drop a if you believe in justice after heartbreak. I'll see you in the next one.